The Hello Culture Matters podcast. Today, we have a special guest. Before I introduce them, here's a quote. When we do not interrupt others, their authenticity becomes clear to us. Authentic, guardian value. Today, our guest is the founder of Guardian Roofing and Siding and the leader of the Guardian values. When we do not interrupt others, their authenticity becomes clearer to us. Robert Frehafer is our friend here on the Culture Matters podcast and a steward of these values and an honest man who's going to tell us today in part two of Authentic, the A, and Guardian. That's Guardian for those who are inept to spelling. Going to tell us.
Skipped an A.
And we're already having fun today on the Culture Matters podcast. And thank you for joining us before sunup. And there's more to say, but Robert has something to add. What did you say?
I think you skipped an A. I think you said G-U-R. I don't even know. Maybe you did. In my mind, I might have been zoning out for a second. But
funny.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning, Jay Doran. And good morning to all of you listeners here at this very special podcast today about not interrupting. We're going to interrupt each other all podcast.
When we do not interrupt others, their authenticity becomes clear to us.
And when I do interrupt you, I get to get my point across very well. Oh wait, is this not the counter one? Because this is.
Let's start with that. Yeah, let's start with if we were to teach a class today on how not to live this value, where would we start?
I think we would start with just getting a script put together from a business standpoint and living in a business world, selling roofing and siding. We would just get a script together. We would say, don't listen to anything, talk right over top of everyone that you come in contact with. And if anybody says anything contrary, they're liars, they're wrong, they're crazy, and get somebody to buy into the mindset that the script is, or that thinking is right. That's the only way to think, is the way that I tell them to think, and live under that paradigm, and then go out there and never listen to anyone else, argue with everyone. As soon as you pick up that somebody's saying something different than what would be in alignment with your end result, you just cut them off immediately with fervor, anger. Use whatever tools available that you have to you, like frustrated, proving them wrong, calling them names, anger, kill them. I don't mean them physically, but I mean, like, in social media, they say, like, just cut somebody off. You say that. It's like killing them. Do all those things that would really, and assume before even anybody has a chance to say anything, just assume what they're going to say, how they're going to say it, and then start to, go directly to prove your point of what it is that you want them to believe, and ignore all signs of their listening, not listening, what they think, what things are going on around you. Just directly go for making sure that your point is heard across. Something along those lines, Jay.
Have you ever seen leadership do that?
That's a great question, because I'm so selfish. I don't even think about how this applies to other leaders. I think how it applies to me, right? Through how it looks through my eyes. Yes, I've seen people, leadership do it. Maybe not exactly to that extreme all the time, but definitely to that extreme in some capacity and sometimes. And And a lot of times now if I see something like that, or even thinking back on it, you know, I think it's like they're not even that aware of what they're doing, right? Like I think that there's like this mindset where they do believe, like I said, like believe the mindset that they have what's best in store for somebody else, or they have an agenda to complete. Yeah, some lack of awareness. But like I said, I think of myself, and maybe not all the time, but that mindset of interrupting somebody, rising up from whatever's going on. I think I know whether a lot of times for me, I would say it falls under the guides of not that much time, right? Like some urgency, like, oh, I only have so much time, so let me get right to the point. Let me just get right to this. And without listening to the other person, asking them questions, understanding, I it was for years, so many times that I would like try to just start positioning what I think my counterpart is saying, and then teaching. But really, I recognized as time goes on, and with working with you, Jay, that I was creating conflict. I was creating a lot of conflict because my counterpart, the person I was dealing with, wasn't feeling heard. Then they were, and I was trying to like get right to the point, solve the problem that they might not even have been having, or whatever it was from my own view. And I don't know how this is even coming out right now, if it's making sense, but does it make sense what I'm saying to you?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you think it makes sense to the people listening, or only to us because we're like that?
I think that in my observations of businesses, it's fairly normal to go about this path. And oftentimes it becomes a narrative of everyone else but the person in a position of authority.
Wait, say it one more time.
It becomes about everyone else outside of the person in a position of authority. The adage,
Even
it's
though it's
lonely at the
lived
top.
out through them. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, like even though, yeah. So the adage, it's lonely at the top, would be a symptom or a byproduct of that psychological phenomenon. It create, a level of a degree of paranoia, even, or and of course anxiety to follow. Because maybe if someone gets stuck in a pattern of um, dialogue around other people being at fault or at issue without resolving those assumptions with with dialogue between them, with conversation between them, so they become isolated on an island. So yeah, I think that if the people are listening, they're entrepreneurs. Um, they may resonate with some of what you're sharing, and if they're employees or have been employed by people where they didn't feel like they could rise up in the company, or they had the resources or the tools to grow, they likely have worked for someone that they considered um, toxic or love hate. It's pretty normal.
The Even as we're having this discussion, there's also the other side, the employee that is in communication, and I'll say with me, right? I'll bring it home, like not to this imaginary scenario, but so I found that when I'm working with you know somebody in the organization that is very balanced, and they have an idea, a concept, a problem that they're bringing to me, it can be different than somebody that has maybe not felt heard in the past, or our relationship as the years have gone on has, they haven't experienced as much change in me, or something along those lines. But really, there's a big difference in the way that one person can bring something versus the way another person can bring something, because I can stop, slow down, listen, ask a question to one of my counterparts, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, take the time and go into it." And again, this, because I'm inside my own brain, I have to, and I'm observing things, and my observation is that another counterpart may get seemingly defensive right off the bat with me slowing down, asking questions, that then they become explanative, like super over explanative, and starting to like, it feels like, for my experience, or my perception is that they're like three parts of the conversation ahead, because they're already anticipating that I would have this poor behavior of judgmentalness, or giving them the answers already, when truly I'm trying to enact a new behavior of asking questions like, "Hey, what's going on? What is this? Why are you asking me about this?" So I truly can understand, rather than just do what I've always done in the past, which would be assume, try to answer the question that I think it is real quick, or solve the problem. And that's definitely been like, over the years, it's been a growth opportunity to deal with and change the relationship between myself and other people in the company. It's not only in a company, it's even in people outside in my life regularly, that I get to see and have to share this space with, of life. So there's a lot of application to this one, and it's not a very simple one for me. This is one that definitely takes practice for me to listen, and listen intentionally, and not interrupt, because I have so much. I engage that way. I want to talk. It's how I've connected with many people. That's how I feel. Let me rephrase that. That's how my experience of connection was, by talking to them, sharing myself with them, and then I felt very connected. You've actually taught me in the very beginning, like, that I in meeting people, from an observation standpoint, you've shared that I could meet someone, I could ask a couple questions and talk and talk and talk, and walk away feeling like, man, that was a great meeting. And the other person walk away like, what was that? Like, they didn't even get to say anything or talk anything. And I was so unaware to that, even. And then I made poor decisions based off of those interactions, because they felt really good to me, because that's how I connected. So there's a lot to this that can be applied from leadership, as well as from in the sales field, as well as dealing with, my family, people in church, and all different people, just to really listen and ask questions to people. So it's been a life-changing lesson, this value.
What what do you think about the part where it says their authenticity becomes clear to us?
Well, I thought that it made no dang sense when you were writing it and shared it with me, and helping me create the written values of what you were experiencing through me. But now it's freaking awesome. Now that I have a deeper understanding of what the word is saying, when I can listen and not interrupt, because I self-centeredly want to share my opinion, my perspective, my view, what I think is right and wrong, whatever the scenario is. If I can take that out of it's still there, but if I can make that lesser of a priority for the time to listen to someone else without interrupting them, their authenticity becomes clear to me. I can actually put myself to the side and listen to someone and understand. And this one has very meaningful application, because I in the past, I don't think that I was even aware of, I had this ideal of people or the individual. I had the way that I viewed them, and then I would make my judgment. And that could be a negative judgment or a positive judgment. Like I could see somebody in a positive light that really wasn't actually deserving of that because it was the paradigm that I created because I never actually listened to them for their authenticity. I didn't ask the questions and listen to the answers for their authenticity. So through doing that, I actually get to come out the other side. And when I listen, then I can be more authentic. The other way is that the other way of not listening and just simply casting my own vision on this person, like how I see them, because I'm not listening, and the way that I think that they're saying, what I think that they're asking, what I think is going on, what I think they're thinking, feeling, and judging their intentions based off of my own paradigm, my own view. I never even get to see their authenticity. So then I'm acting in a way, my reactions or actions are based off of all of my own views. So that now I'm the least authentic that I could possibly be from, and I would assume from their perspective, they're like, what the heck is this guy? Why is he acting this way? Right? It's all this self-made narrative from a psychological standpoint based off of small things that I'm allowing to make it through into my mind or my view versus kind of like I can never shut myself off, but tabling my thoughts, my emotions, and really concentrating to listen to my counterpart and ask questions to understand, regardless of whatever emotion is risen up inside of me or desire to defend, or and a lot of that usually especially in the past had come from an insecurity where I would want someone to view me. So I couldn't even get out of my own way long enough to listen to someone because I was just so stuck in my own self-centered, like I want someone to view me this way or think this way, or I don't want them to fail, or I want to prop up my success, or whatever these things could be. So I think that understanding their authenticity, although their authenticity becomes clear to us, although that is true, I can actually listen and see and understand them more clearly, what they are authentically about. And a lot of times, to take that to another depth, a lot of times it's not exactly what someone says. It's what they do, how they live over time, what their past track record has been. I can slow down enough to view these things. It's not only the word that they use, because a lot of times people's word don't match their actions or attitudes and emotions. Because and yeah, so that being said, once I can then once they're clear, their authenticity is clear to me, I can then be more authentic with them. So that's how that impacts me, of telling them like, hey, I don't, if it's in a work scenario, I don't think this is a good fit, or you would be a great fit, right? I could actually see both sides of that scenario, or there's a problem here, or there's something really great going on here. I can miss all these indicators if I don't slow down and listen. So that's really how that applies. They're
What
authentic.
value, what guardian values combine with authentic, would you say?
You ask me this question, and they all seem to intertwine. I don't want to take the precious time that we have and just run through all of them, but give me a moment to think here on this. And
Oh, and I would think, you know, when we do not interrupt others, their authenticity becomes clearer to us. Based on if we're listening to our people, we're going to see where they're strong and where they're weak as it relates to what values they actually live or understand. If we're not letting people talk, then we don't know where they're at. they can hide. And so in one sense, authentic helps us become more clear on where the culture is at, or where each individual is at in their journey, learning, and being a guardian, um, which is a combination of their character and, of course, the subject matter of the organization. So that's one thing that comes to mind about authentic is, if the leadership is living that value out, they're going to be more capable of, more capable of leading, because they're going to know where their people are at. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree. And to me, it really, and again, this could be my own view, but the difference between not listening and listening, and not observing and observe, not asking and asking, true, and to be able to see where our people are at, right? And I don't even limit it to leadership and people that are working together, just everybody in all area. It really does, to me, it boils down to, it just seems like, the way I would put word to it is, like a solid human being, somebody that is secure, somebody that is mature, right? I think of these, the other side of it is just somebody that is just, weak, or just not even weak. When I say solid, like they'll be pushed around easily, by a word or an action or something they perceive. It can blow them around like a loose sail in the wind, or insecure, like they're not clear on their own values, who they are, what they are, and and immature, like, coming from a life of hurt, right? People that have hurt them, people that, or their perception of people that have hurt them, from this worldly, self-centered mindset. And the challenge, Jay, that I have is that, and I'm not, and I want to be clear, I'm not at this point saying like I'm up here and everyone else is down here. I do believe it is a huge gift that I have to even be aware to these things, because I was way down here, and if people can't see my hands, but in the insecure and blown around and immature level, from emotional maturity and psychologically and all these different things, where through having this awareness, now I feel so, and maybe I'm just getting up to regular, and other people have walked through life this way, but many of the people, or the way, these are the things that are still being unearthed. Like, the way that I view a lot of people is that they struggle with things like this insecurity and being pushed around. And when I come into contact with somebody that seems secure, solid and mature, it's like, it's so refreshing. It's like, it holds me to a higher, it holds me to a higher standard. It makes it so I have to then self-reflect, like, wait, why am I saying this thing? Why am I acting this way? Where is this language coming from that's coming out of my face? Like, what is the reason for this? And it slows me down a little bit. So I say all that because, I'm hopeful that, I'm hopeful that my transparency in these topics will help someone else to, like, break, if they're even in that area at all, right? That's where, like I said, it's revealed, like, it's only my own view, and I could have a warped view because it's coming out of my perception, and maybe everybody's awesome and doing really well. But if there is one person that is, thinking that they're looking through the world, and they can feel these feelings of like, oh, this person, they don't understand, or they're looking at me wrong, and I got to change their view, or these frustrated, you know, um, feeling alone moments where misunderstood or whatever, that they can have this freedom on the other side of it. And it's not like it's like a lasting freedom, right? It's a continual practice of, all right, the next situation comes up and you have to practice these principles again of asking questions, listening to somebody, sharing truthfully what you think, and recognizing that there could be some warped emotion and thoughts from poor behaviors in the past, or poor experiences, or less than ways that I've been treated or someone else has been treated, that they have to navigate through and change their thinking. That's actually a book that I'm reading right now called Thinking for a Change. So by John Maxwell, the guy's name is. Nobody can see it here as I hold it
Right.
up, but all that being said, like, there's some changes that have to go on to make changes. I recognize the outside things and the inside things. So my hope is that through this transparency, through this medium, that if there's one other person, so it's a reminder for me, I have to be transparent with myself so I can know where I'm coming from. It feels uncomfortable because it's like being naked almost, and then people that are closest to me that listen to this, like, there's this view that my view is that there's an opportunity where they'll know me more and potentially could take advantage and like use that and say, oh, you're judging me, or you're doing this old behavior, because the behavior can still rise up. But through all that risk, I'm more than willing, right? Because if there's anyone that it can help, as well as it does help me at the same time, to really look inward, these are the changes, and to remind me that of the benefits of truly listening to someone, and and navigating relationships in this very authentic way. It has proven to have such peace that I've talked with you about it a ton. Like, I love it. I love to be able to walk away from a discussion and feel like, oh, I didn't like blow my tie. I didn't like say things out of character. I didn't say too much. And I've listened to somebody, and I can circle back and bring more of the way that I think after I think about it for some time. It's really been impactful. So I'm very thankful for the way that you've impacted my life. So to get back to the original question of what other values does this, you know, intertwine with, and I say all of them, because exactly like you said, I wouldn't be able to see what the other team members are doing, how they're living up to the values, if I wasn't thinking and listening. But it's inside the organization as well as outside the organization, for attracting people that will be working with the organization, or clients, or vendors, truly. Because if there's a vendor that I'm considering to use, and they're like whacked out, like, if I don't listen to that and I only hear certain things, I could get aligned with or I could align with someone that's not, with the same values that we are. And there's a lot of people in business that aren't having the same values as Guardian, which could be negatively impactful in the future. So it really does seem to go, as I looked at them, it really does seem to, even the first one, Guardian, a home improvement specialist who listens intentionally. That's the number one. It's Guardian, right? It's what we are. It's the G of Guardian. Every customer is different, and that makes them special. We would never know their difference in their unique attitude, communicate with our values and not selfish desires, thinking long term. So again, if I'm thinking about myself, and that's how this for me plays out, is to push my own agenda, share from my own view, and I have to put that to the side to really listen to somebody. So as I go through all of the values, it seems to be, and it's interesting how we've gone through this, and when you asked me that question, the one particular value that we're on seems like, oh, this is the one. And it's like they're all supporting each other. So I really like that. That's been revealed as we've gone through these values, how if you look at one individually, it seems like, oh, this is the strongest, this is the most important, and it's intertwined through all these. But as I've gone through each of them, they're all become that strongest, most necessary value that's run through all of them. So it really, it's a neat word picture it's a neat thing to see in my brain, how they're all so important as a value in the company.